There are an incredible number of threats that forests face.
The effects of our changing climate are, no question, impacting what we can do.
We have invasive species that we're watching out for.
We are losing acres of forests to development pressure.
That's the biggest threat to forest, is losing actual forest land to pavement.
You gotta focus on the primary stressors to the environment. That's not forestry. Forestry is providing benefits to it. So we should be nurturing that part of it. And we should be dealing with the real stressors.
Once we lose that forest, we've lost all those benefits from a carbon standpoint, from a biodiversity standpoint, from a potential for wood product standpoint.
With so much of our landscape being privately owned, it even more strengthens the importance of being able to harvest sustainably and make a case for keeping those forests as forests by being able to afford to have large tracts of forested land.
It can be harder and harder to own and maintain a forest because of the costs.
The landowner who can't pay his taxes is going to have to survive economically somehow, so he's going to take that 450-acre farm and he's going to parcel it out.
We need solutions that work for families at their kitchen table.
There's this current use program here in Vermont that helps people, gives them a little bit of relief on their tax burden on forest land.
We have 4.5 million acres of forest land in the state. 2 million of those acres are enrolled in the Use Value Appraisal Program for forest land.
So that's been a tool to help landowners keep their land.
It's a tax break to allow the landscape to continue to be a landscape that everybody benefits from.
It's over a $60 million program to keep Vermont's forest working and forested.
Current use is probably one of the best programs for working lands in the state.
What it's done is increase the quality of the logs that we're getting. That's what I think.
Current use is absolutely essential. It's part of the reason why Vermont still looks the way that it does.
I mean, I look at these and I'm amazed at the size. You know, I mean, the stuff that I started with, we wouldn't even accept today.
All land that's in current use is managed forest land.
That means all of those acres have a forest management plan that is overseen by a forester and approved by our foresters here.
So much of the forested land that we have in Vermont exists because of the economic viability of owning forest land being made possible through sustainable forest harvest practices.
But for that program, we would lose the best opportunity this state has ever known for land, wildlife, forestry, and natural resource conservation, hands down.
As I talked about today, kind of the main goal is for you to break up into 14 groups of 4, right? So again, we have our 14 captains are all here. And then the goal for today, again, you want to like delineate your stand, like where is that within the forest? And then like take observations, like what's out there in terms of ecological features, other things that like are striking you that this would be a great place to manage for wildlife habitat, or there's some pretty awesome pine here that would make sense for managing for commercial purposes. Our students are just so creative and thoughtful, and they're just a very different breed than when I was going through forestry school or others. Just a fun time to be working with them. How many plots have you all done?
This is our first.
Nice, cool.
We did a walk around the entire perimeter. Now we're doing plots within our determined stand.
It's good to see young people eager to learn that stuff. We need to keep that. We need to grow that. Vermont Tech was born as a college of agriculture and forestry, and they're eliminating those programs.
The idea that we're losing those working lands programs there is pretty concerning.
I'm a senior in high school. I do VAST, which is Vermont Academy of Science and Technology, so it's doing your senior year as a freshman in college. I've got a few friends that are in the forestry program. This is the last semester of it, and they're going to graduate. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, those groups of people that are actually interested in doing this, you know, forestry or logging, there's nowhere for them to go here in central Vermont.
I think it's a huge mistake because it's a huge part of Vermont.
It's this huge conflict or hypocrisy or whatever you want to call it, that we would discontinue a program to train people how to manage forests when everybody's talking about how much we need healthy forests to be resilient to climate change.
Every child that graduated in our program is guaranteed a job in the industry. 100% track record. How can you argue with that?
Many people don't have a really good sense as to what foresters do.
They love our forests and they love the products that come out of our forests, but they actually don't understand what happens in between.
I started the company in 1973. I hope that we can continue in Vermont to encourage the management of our forests that allows us to harvest the wood that we need to make really responsibly built furniture. It's very important to our customers that they know the wood is sustainably harvested.
If you go out into the forest and become acquainted with the forest and learn more about it and understand its cycles, you'll understand that timber harvesting is sustainable in Vermont.
And if we value those forests, we need to value the whole system, the whole forest economy that supports them.
I mean, how many of us in our house don't use wood? We all sit in a chair and there's usually some wood to it.
It's critical that our voters understand what's going on around them in rural Vermont. It's crucial that they pay attention to the rural economy and vote accordingly.
A lot of times, the narrative that seems like it makes the most sense when you hear it is not going to be the one that's true.
To my colleagues, I would say, I know this is not an issue that's really important to you, but we have to think about, in our overarching goals, where does this fit?
I believe you and the legislature really are committed to doing the right thing for this state and for us. And so for you to get to know us in the forest industry is one of the most important things you can do, because it plays a huge role in all of these issues that we're talking about in Vermont.
The legislators have the smallest districts in the country. So that means we have more legislators per person than other states.
I represented just over 4,000 people when I was in the legislature, so every vote did make a difference in that election.
We're not going to let our communities be ignored anymore. We're going to advocate for what we need. We're going to tell our stories, and we're going to be a part of figuring out how to make a Vermont that works for everybody.
Can you imagine a local renewable resource that contributes positively to our local economies and our working landscape, and that can be harvested while we help an ecosystem heal? And what could be better than that?
Conservation in itself isn't a value. Conservation is a tool to accomplish values. And what are kind of those core values? Like, you want to protect the land. Why? What are you protecting? Is it biodiversity? Is it kind of complex ecosystems? Is it tourism? Is it working landscapes and people who live and work in those communities? You know, there's many, many, many right answers, but the wrong answer is to just completely ignore the people factor. If we're kind of conserving natural areas in a way that is distancing the very people who live and work in or on the edges of those natural areas, then that's where we've gone awry.